A very beautiful good day to you. I'm glad you're here. Today, I want to show you how to install Proxmox VE on a Hetzner server. And I assume that if you're watching this video now and want to install Box, that you basically know how to get a Hetzner server or another server on which you can install Linux so that you can carry out the server installation as desired, just like I'm doing here. I start the system in rescue mode and then use install image to start my server or to begin the installation of Debian, and format the hard drives and take care of other things. My server should have already been restarted at Hetzner, so now I'm going to use PuTTY here. I've already saved the IP address, so I'll go ahead and connect to it. The server is responding. Accept it, make it a bit bigger again. Here, just like that, quick and easy. And now I'll log in here as a user with my password. Done. And now, as you can see, I am already successfully logged into the rescue system. Then I will simply go ahead and enter the install image command right here, and now the official install image interface from Hetzner starts up. We definitely want to install Debian today. Okay, the Bianco form base bullseye version could also be used for this specific setup if you prefer. But now that we've called up install image, this install config file is displayed to us, and here we can configure the installation. Let's quickly go through these little hash signs. These are comments. That means, so to speak, this part is just for information. It's simply provided here as information. Everything without a comment sign is, so to speak, a technical instruction that should be applied during the installation. The host name for me is pvp.3, Peter Münchner and D, because the server should also be accessible via the internet. IPv4 only. No, we'll leave it like this for now. We can always disable IPv6 later if we want to. Now, here we have a brief explanation of how you can basically set up your partitions here. Partitions. We'll just leave all of that as it is for now. Down here, partition swap, partition boot, and partition ext4 for the rest, basically for the data. And for me, the swap partition, I always set it to 8 GB because we have 2 times 2 terabytes in this server. We don't need to be stingy. The boot partition is always way too small for me because I usually need several Linux kernels in case a kernel doesn't work properly after a kernel installation, so that at least I have the option to go back to an old kernel. So let's do that. 4 GB. That way a few more kernels will fit and we'll leave the rest as it is. Operating system image, Debian bookworm. Yes, that's how it was. I pressed F2. So these are the F keys here. F1 for help, F2 for save, and so on and so forth. Select, replace, copy, move, search, delete, and so on and so forth. Again, now we press F2, then we press save, and then we press F10. Attention, do you want to continue? Yes, we do. There we go. Now everything is being deleted, the partitions are being created, various files for startup are being set up, and the system is being installed. Is this all going to take a while now? And then we'll have the Debian 12 Bockbaum operating system on our server and can use it. Of course, we wait as long as it takes. It shows what it's working on and installing. And you just have to wait for that time. It doesn't take forever, but it does take a certain amount of time, yes. And while Debian 12 is now being installed on our Hetzner server, I've opened the website of proxmox.com, the wiki. You can also just Google it really easily. That's how I always do it. How to install Proxmox VE on Debian. And then you'll immediately find a great guide, which we already have open here. And we're going to follow this guide now in this video. And then everything should actually work perfectly. So the installation has completed successfully. You can now reboot the new system and you'll have the same login credentials as from the rescue system. So we'll use the same password that we used for the rescue system. We'll log in, so let's just go ahead and do that now. Then the connection will be closed and the server will restart, and that takes a while. So we've now completed the basic installation. Now let's go ahead and start it up. PuTTY, I'll load it with Hetzner and adjust the font size a bit so it's easier to read. Zack, session save. And now we start a thing like this. Now the text is a little bigger, my PuTTY. Now we can log in here with the same data as before into the rescue system. So here we are in Debian, GNU Linux Bookworm. The first thing we're going to do now is run lsl. Total null, so there are no files here yet. We'll go ahead and run the apt-get update command first to verify whether there are any specific software packages that require installation on your system by running the apt-update command. There are currently 43 packages available for an upgrade. Well, then we will go ahead and perform the upgrade minus. Yes, first we'll install the regular Linux updates so that everything is fresh here. To have a proper and decent system, it takes a little moment, but we'll also install a new kernel right away. Will be. You'll see in a moment. What I'll do next is install timeshift. So apt install timeshift. Yep. Alright, now we've installed everything. Update, all packages are up to date, and then we'll use timeshift right away. Timeshift. Now you can see here, when you open timeshift, what options you have. And now I'll just go ahead and run timeshift. And now it's already creating a timeshift, specifically a runtime one. Shift 31385. Backup. Now the Debian system is basically stored as a backup in this folder. We'll just leave it like that. And theoretically, we could now say timeshift minus restore. And now I can simply take the number here. 0. Enter. Then a few warning messages appear, and then I can reset the thing. It's that simple, so what's the point of all this? This is timeshift. It's almost like a snapshot backup system, similar to Windows recovery, but much better. And if I start tinkering with this Linux server now, I can, if I break something, just go and say timeshift restore. And then I can reset it to a certain point. With timeshift minus create, I can also add a description. So, for example, an explanation like postfix installation or something similar. And then I can specifically restore different snapshots as needed. But that's not really the point here. What we actually want to do is install Proxmox. For that, we'll now open the Proxmox wiki website, since our Linux system is already prepared. So here are a few explanations and clarifications. We've already done that. Regarding the configuration at Hetzner, with other providers, of course, you might have to manually adjust the etc. hosts file. But at Hetzner, the configuration from the install image has already taken care of that for us. I've now entered reboot in my console, since we had installed updates. We've installed timeshift, already created a timeshift backup, and now we can continue with the Proxmox installation. So let's open up PutTwy again, log into Hetzner, and the window is a bit larger again. Here it is. Now it wants the password. And now we're already logged in. And now we'll start installing Proxmox. And we'll do that following the instructions from Proxmox. Install Proxmox. So first we'll add the Proxmox repository to our repository list. We'll just copy this line, paste it in here. Press enter. Now we'll add the enterprise repository key first. We actually don't need it from enterprise, but we want to do it correctly, just as it says on the website. We're adding it now, and here it says some command not found, but it did add the key. That should work. Now we'll do an update and a full upgrade. That's what the repository is for. Now that we've added it, it will be updated and read in. And then it wants to know if we want to install all of this. So let's just go ahead and install it. We trust it because, well, we don't really have another choice. So that's done. Now let's go back to the instructions. Now we'll install Proxmox VE. Postfix, OpenSeekSci, and Crony, we'll just add those as well. We're just following the instructions step by step, super easy. Now it's fetching, doing its thing, and setting up PVE. No subscription, that's how it is for me. In my case, it's an internet server, but I'll still just choose local only. Because the emails that Proxmox is supposed to send, I'll set that up later directly in Proxmox. So this is my system name. Okay, let's leave it like that. Now it's installing a few more things here, the basic Proxmox installation. So to speak, it all takes a moment. Proxmox kernel, because Proxmox has its own customized Linux kernel. We only needed this Debian kernel from Hetzner to somehow get access to the server, so that we could then install Proxmox, because with Hetzner you can't just say, install Proxmox for me. Of course, it would be nice, it would be great if Hetzner set it up so you could just say, yeah, install Proxmox for me. You click the button. 10 minutes later, after you've had your coffee, you go back and log into Proxmox. I thought about writing them an email just to see if they could do something about it. But they'll probably say either you deal with it and install it yourself, or you shouldn't be using Proxmox. But it does take a bit of time here. You just have to make the time for it. So Now, moving on, if you work a lot with Box, then you just have to get used to this console as well. The installation has basically finished here. If we take another look now, as we want to, with Box, or rather it's recommended to remove the old Linux kernel. So you must remove the default kernel. So just copy the line. If you enter yes, the confirmation, then it will be removed. If not, no. We don't want to cancel this, so let's see what they want us to do next. Now we need to update grub, basically the boot manager for Linux, and follow these steps. These steps also have to be completed one after another, otherwise it won't work. Now we should remove osprober, because this system always scans all partitions on every restart, and we should remove that as well. That's what Proxmox recommends here, yes. We've removed it, so now we need to create a Linux bridge. We'll do that as well once we've logged in. Now let's see if we can already log in as, again, small d and 6. In any case, it's already quite advanced since we haven't installed SSL yet. Nothing at all. My goodness, that was really easy just now. Now here we have the root login password, which we've basically been using the whole time. The system set it up for us, login, and there you go. We're online now, so before we can install SSL, we need to create a Linux bridge so that the SSL certificate can be applied to this bridge and to the network configuration. Now we go here to Data Center, PV, to our node, system, and network. Here we have the network interface. This is the hardware that's in the server. This is linked to our IP address, which we received from Hetzner or from another provider. In my case, it's Hetzner. So we can now see here in the web interface that the network card is, so to speak, integrated here in Proxmox. However, in order to connect virtual machines later, we need network bridges. And I don't create those through the GUI, I create them via the shell, but not from the Proxmox interface either. I create them directly using PuTTY. So I start PuTTY, connect to the server, good. Now I need to get my password. Where is it? Up there. Alright, now I'm online. And here I have a predefined configuration of mine. So then let's do nano, etc. Network interfaces. This is the interfaces file here. And auto MP7S0, that's the network card, it gets integrated automatically. But I need a special configuration, which I have already prepared here. Copying is probably different for you. And now I'll paste it here for myself. There's a tag here. The network bridge VMBR0. The VMBR0 has a static IP address. This is the one here. It has a gateway. The bridge port is NUP. 07 is the network card, and through this bridge, the external internet connection is essentially provided. The VMBR1 is later for virtual machines that need to connect to the outside. And the VMBR2 is intended for virtual machines, in my case, that communicate within Proxmox. So I'll save this configuration here now. I'll add another one here. SpaceRin. The Facebook, I am really starting to like it quite a bit now. So let us take a look and see. Naturally, and of course, I just truly hope that this process will work out for us now. I'm bringing it down, so I'm turning off all the network connections. Then the network connection will be turned back on. It should come back up shortly. There it is again. It's in there. Let's do it. Ping 8.8.8. He did the ping. Now let's take a look here. We'll reload now and go into the networks, and voila. Here is VMW 0, especially Bernhard 2. Those are the bridges. They're active. Auto start is on. Now, let's do the following. Just restart the server, and then we'll see whether it boots up normally and whether it's accessible for me again via these network interfaces, so to speak. So I'll continue working here in Firefox later. Now you can see here that no security certificate is installed and that we're taking a risk here. So let's navigate over to our data center section, specifically to ACME, and set up a brand new ACME account from scratch. For me, the account name is PVE Ralph. And we make sure that we enter a valid and correct email address into the field. contact.ralphpeterleinert.de. We accept the privacy policy and the terms and conditions, whatever they may be. The account has been created. It's up here now. Now we can go to a node to the PVE server. Here, the account using account PVE Ralph is already entered. Apply. Now we can add our domain name here. Create. After clicking create, we can order a certificate. Order certificate. Now it goes to the Akimi v02 API, lets encrypt and fetches an SSL certificate. Order is ready. It has been validated. Certificate is being downloaded. Certificates are being installed. Task OK is completed. Now the GUI should be reloaded. Now, here in my Brave browser, it still says not secure, but I can't do anything about it from my browser right now. Delete cookies and website data and similar things. So now we'll use a different browser, namely Firefox, and load it up. Reload the whole thing, and voila, the connection is secure, verified by Let's Encrypt, all tricky stuff. And now I'll log in here using Firefox. With root, using the password I received earlier, and now I'm logged in here, and the SSL certificate is already installed. Now comes another important security measure, namely two-factor authentication. We're going to set that up here now. For that, we need a Firefox add-on, specifically the Google Authenticator. Authenticator. There it is. We'll install it now. Add to Firefox. It takes a moment. Also add to private windows. Authenticator has been added. Now pin it to the toolbar so I can see it here. Done. Very nice. All right. Now the authenticator is there. Now we'll go ahead and activate it. Two-factor authentication. Add the root PAM module. And now we'll utilize the specific authenticator tool right here to make the PVE maturity smaller again. Okay, now it wants the code here. Just click on it real quick then. It asks if it can copy. Allow. This is the specific code you need to use. You simply give it a unique tag, for example, the description pvp.dee. It has to be included in there too, of course. Stand by for a moment. Now the coach has expired, and incidentally you should make a new copy of the film, which is located right here and ends once Zach is enabled. Yes, that is exactly how it works. And now we can only log in using this two-factor authentication code. Let's just say something. Alright then Linux, it looks like he is asking for that 6-digit two-factor authentication security code right now. Can you please provide it? So now two-factor authentication is already installed. And now we have our PV here, and that was basically the basic installation on a server. Now it's important that we can do updates, and the enterprise repository is still configured for us. And if we refresh here, it says that we haven't paid for it, and then there's an error. That's why we simply remove the enterprise repository here. Just disable enterprise. The no subscription repository is already integrated. It's already set up. That's it. Now we can reload. Now it's reading all the keys. Okay, and our system is up to date because we've already done update and upgrade and everything via the shell. And that's why everything is already up to date now. So please disable the enterprise repository down here to avoid error messages, and then you're good to go. Or alternatively, use enterprise. Paying is definitely recommended for live systems that are actively used in companies. And so it's recommended to purchase it. Paying for it costs money, but in an emergency, you get immediate help. So thank you very much for listening and watching. Purchasing works, as does the installation, and the rest is of course all covered in my book or books, where you can see how to do everything nicely. That was the basic installation, that was the SSL installation, and that was the authenticator, meaning two-factor authentication, so that not just anyone can log in without permission. With that, I thank you and wish you a wonderful day.